My shoes slid down the slippery rocks on the pathway. Since it rained for the last few days, the road was damp, which added an element of danger. Or in my case, fun times. I did a graceful half-turn and waited for DeAndre to catch up to me. Stop flirting with him, Melissa.
Careful now, we don't need you flying off the edge here.
I'm an accomplished dancer. Some slimy rocks won't trip me up. Oh, hey, where does this lead? My attention swiftly zeroed in on a beaten path that went downward towards the roads and houses.
No idea. Shall we take a detour?
I remember the last time I took a detour and got lost, and the chain of events that happened because of it. Sure, why not? I definitely learned from my mistakes. Yep, me. However, the path did not lead far. It took us to a rectangular area in the forest, roughly 40 yards across. Some hay bundles were stacked in a pile. DeAndre and I exchanged confused glances. Why would there be hay in the middle of nowhere? It looks like it's been there for ages, too.
Beats me.
We could always ask Augustin or Hendrik. Maybe they know.
Is it even worth bringing up? It's only abandoned fodder.
Wouldn't hurt. Now let's head back before we get lost somehow.
I highly doubt that.
Hey, it already happened once to me. Oh, we made it. Once we returned to the museum, I poked my head into the indoor laboratory. Hendrik was carefully prying stone flakes off a core, occasionally adding some sort of solvent to a moist cloth.
Hello, what can I do for you?
DeAndre and I filed into the room while I curiously peered at the half-dismantled core. We stopped by to ask about some hay.
Hay?
There's a stack of hay in the forest, off the cave path.
Oh, that. What about it? Wondering why it's there? See, during tours or festivals, we use that area to throw javelins. We also set up some sort of target against the hay.
Oh, sweet as. So where do you keep the weapons? Hall closet?
Second floor, actually.
Would we even be allowed to use them?
Of course. In fact, I can demonstrate right now.
How did we get here? This is like a completely new thing. Really?
Yes, we can squeeze some practice in before it gets dark. If you want to, that is.
I'm in. You're joining us, right, Melissa?
I really want to. I don't... But... No, I'm not supposed to be here. How did I get here? Oh man, I'll go another time. How did I miss this? I shook my head. I wasn't in the mood for throwing weapons. I'm a serious archaeologist. Nah, I'll pass this one up. You two have fun.
You sure? Another time, then.
You know where to find us if you change your mind.
You boys have fun. I don't know where that came from and why... What's going on? Oh boy. Are we gonna get along this time?
Fine, I'll be the adult here. You really suck as a volunteer partner, but I shouldn't have yelled at you. I'm sorry.
I didn't mean to snap at you while preparing lunch last week. You know what you're doing, and I won't ignore your advice.
It's cool. I'll set the table then. Remember, the forks go on the left side of the plates?
I know what I'm doing.
That didn't last long. DeAndre rolled his eyes before he turned to me. That wasn't so bad now, was it?
I guess, but I doubt we'll get along swimmingly. Can't stand him.
I'm sure there's a few good things about KYLER.
Like?
He's hardworking. He's diligent when it comes to archaeology. He grumbles, but he helps out when I need it.
Nice to know he's good at something, at least. I guess he's kinda cute, if you squint.
I love that he still brings up the fact that KYLER's cute. Really?
Like I said, if you squint. I have a call to make. I'll be right back.
Okay. All done?
I set up everything, and... Why are you staring at me like that?
No reason. Don't you worry, you sweetheart. Nothing to worry your pretty head about. No, Melissa, this is why I do double dance. How can you fail twice? Okay, we need to do a couple of internetings. Okay, cave. You're volunteering. Yes, okay. Just double checking. Cave still. Okay, no need to volunteer that day. Cave. Volunteer. Oh, lab. Shock of shocks, it changed. Volunteer. And yeah, we'll do a couple dances. And how's our... Oh my, we have 5 on almost a half hearts. Any changes? Oh, it changed! He seems cold and distant, but he's actually really awkward once you get to know him. Doesn't sound much better, actually. Poor KYLER. Okay, let's go. I climbed up both ladders, intending to go outside for a break. I followed the industrial catwalk and noticed Shoji to my right. His square was next to the path, and he had to be mindful of where he placed his buckets. Noticing he was excavating in a rather circular lair, I stopped to re-examine the situation. He dug into an abandoned burrow, and with no indication that he acknowledged its presence. If Augustin spotted that... Shoji.
Hello, Melissa. Need something?
Yeah. How to word this? You failed a spot check, Shoji.
What?
He worryingly looked at his square, and I leaned over to gesture to the burrow. You're digging into a terrier. It's this. I gently traced it with a finger.
How did I miss it? I'm usually good at distinguishing colors.
Aw! He removed his glasses and used the hem of his shirt to clean them.
When you come across a burrow, what do you do?
You treat it like a separate layer to avoid mixing. The sediments were already muddled thanks to the badgers, so you can place the contents into another bucket along with a document to identify it. While he adjusted his glasses, I glanced behind us, looking at the wooden post with a heat lamp clamped to its side. When was the last time you moved it?
Not recently. I thought that it was in a convenient spot.
It's a nice angle, but the light will eventually bleach the exposed layers, and it'll all look the same to you. Here. I tried to remove the clamp, but all I could do was jiggle it around awkwardly. Wow, this is a pain. Noticing my frustration, Shoji stood up and extended an arm.
This is one of the more difficult lamps. I got it.
Using both hands, he pressed the clamp handles and removed the lamp from its post. Cautiously, he passed it over to me, and I gripped the safe portions away from the heat. Return to your usual digging spot. Let's see. While Shoji knelt down, I hovered around his shoulder, angling the lamp to highlight the vertical square. Does it stand out now?
A little more to the left. Stop there.
He retreated to the wooden post in the cinder block and pushed it closer to me so I could clamp the lamp's place. Or at least attempt to. Furrowing my eyebrows in concentration, I managed to wedge the clamp open enough to fix it onto the post. After some minor alterations, I glanced back to see Shoji satisfied with the new placement.
Thanks for that. I'll keep the advice in mind.
It's not a problem. Don't forget to adjust the lamps once in a while. Anyway, I'm heading out for a break. I can return with a bucket and a carré for the burrow if you'd like.
If it's no trouble.
Sounds good. See you in a bit. As I turned, I froze on the catwalk, realizing I was dangerously close to a cinder block positioned at the edge. Hoo-hoo, foreshadowing. There was a wooden post inserted into it with a heat lamp clasped on, angled toward the square beside Shoji's.
Careful, it can be a tight fit here.
No kidding. Later, Shoji.
Wait, Melissa?
After exchanging looks, Shoji gazed back down at the ground, his fingers reaching for the trowel.
If it's not too much trouble, when we're working at the same place, could you see how I'm doing? Sherry's always busy, and I don't want to bother her, and Professor DuPont honestly scares me. If you make a mistake, he drills it into you for a good 20 minutes, and everyone can hear it.
I can see why people prefer to ask Sherry or Hendrik. If you don't mind getting advice from a fellow student who's sometimes unsure of herself, I can't promise I'll know all the answers, but I'll do my best. I can stop by to see how you're doing.
Thank you. I know it's imposing, so I appreciate it.
I'm happy to help. 'Cause you're a darling. Oh, we succeeded at interneting. What's up? Rosemary blinked out of her trance and turned to me, flashing a smile. She made a sweeping movement with her arm to direct my attention. Oh, trying to refit this collection. They're all pieces from the same layer, and I'm trying to connect them. That sounds difficult. There's easily hundreds right here. Think of it as getting a box of pieces from different jigsaw puzzles. They don't tell you how many pieces are missing, or how many puzzles they're from. No pictures to help either. It's a huge accomplishment even to pair up one. And now I'm forbidden to use glue. Bah! Yeah, I did hear a snippet of it. It seems both Augustin and Hendrik don't like it when the collections get fiddled with. Agitated, she slammed both hands on the table. They disapprove of removing anything from their precious order. Everything must remain in its properly recorded place and stored away. They pay more attention to context and the microstratigraphy than actively putting the pieces together. I feel like I'm the only one who wants to learn about the Neanderthals. Ugh, they're so boneheaded. No, more like rock-headed. Forgive me for resorting to one of Hendrik's puns. Anyway, I'm the one who studies all of the technology. I even craft my own tools and weapons here to demonstrate. If you'd like, feel free to help me. Seeing it up close is fascinating. Just watch yourself. Many of the blades and edges are still sharp like new. Sure. I pulled up a chair, focusing on the nearest pieces. So these are all from KYLER Cave? Of course. Every single one documented and accounted for. If a flint was found in the wet screening, though, it'll be missing some coordinates. The variety was stunning, from small flaked pieces to others that resembled axes or thin knives. I picked up one and brought it to her attention. How were they able to accomplish this exactly? Sherry did lecture to me about it, but it was mostly sketch diagrams of the final product and not the process. Depends on what they were planning to do with it. For example, make a recloir, axe, points. The one you're holding is a recloir, also called a scraper. You can see it was beautifully retouched by pressure flaking at its edge here. They'd use a think of it like a chisel with a pointed end, and apply force until it snapped a flake off. Good for finer details and to resharpen tools. Neanderthals were clever. They knew how to get long use out of their tools, and they had more control than the previous stone tool industries. And this one? I picked it up. The stone had an odd bulb near the end, followed by ripples along its surfaces. It reminded me of a shell. That's a concordial flake. It could be retouched into a tool if needed. It was easier to carry lightweight flakes than large intact rocks. This was done by percussion flaking. Basically, they used a hammerstone to strike it at a precise angle to break flakes off, causing this rippling pattern. We placed the objects down, and Rosemary tapped one of the bigger stones in the center of the box. This scarred thing in the middle is a quartzite core. Quartzite is extremely hard to nab, but if material was limited, they would use it. Now I need to find the tertiary flakes to fit to it. Tertiary? Flakes from the interior part of the rock. Think of the core as the yolk of an egg, the tertiary flakes as the white part, and the outer flakes, called primary and secondary, as pieces of the shell. I'm following how the Neanderthals napped the tools in reverse, step by step. I know the terminology can be a little overwhelming. Right now it's more important to be able to identify them when you're digging. This quartzite is actually from an old Mouse River deposit a few kilometers from here. Hendrik and I published a few papers on material sources. Higher quality material like flint and chert would be carried for even longer distances. Dear me, I'm blathering on like some cartoon owl from a kid's show. If you'd like, I can show you some of the stuff Hendrik and I published together. It'll give you more insight regarding KYLER's history. Really? I'd love to see it if you could email or print it off. I was awed that they had published works, but now that I thought about it, they probably published updates or findings related to KYLER Cave. It sounds like you and Hendrik have worked a lot together. We attended the same university, and we went to similar classes. Obviously published some papers together, too. I hesitated, but decided to be frank about it. It'd been nagging at the back of my mind for a while. Are you and Hendrik a couple? What? Where did you get that idea? 999! Don't get me wrong. I love and adore Hendrik, but as a friend. I'm not attracted to men in that way either. Anyway, about the papers. I'll talk to Hendrik about it, since I know he'll have them on hand or in digital format.
Why is my name being mentioned?
Oh, Hen, speak of the devil. Melissa and I were discussing sharing our published works with her.
Oh, not those. They're all badly worded gibberish with convoluted sentences in an attempt to sound mastery smart.
You're over-exaggerating.
And they're, in French.
Some are published in English. You know, I don't have to look at them if you don't want me to.
I'm satisfied with my recent work, so I don't mind sharing those with you.
His first published work could be boiled down to, gee, these 60-million-year-old mountains sure haven't changed much in 60 million years.
I had to pick something, and it was still time-consuming compiling all that data, Miss. Gee, these Neanderthals prefer to use local napping material.
She pouted, then hemmed to change the subject.
I'll gather the newest articles. The ones written by Rosemary and me cover locations of material used for napping, while the ones I've collaborated on with my uncle explain the stratigraphy of KYLER.
Sounds good. It'll give me something to read over the weekend. Hendrik glanced over at the collection on the table.
I'm guessing Rosemary finally gave you one of her spiels. I hope it made up for missing out on the presentation earlier.
True. Augustin had decided it was easier to explain stone tools himself since there was only one English-speaking student present. Yep, it was pretty interesting.
Must have been, since everyone left 10 minutes ago. Sherry was looking for you.
What? I glanced at the wall clock. Eep, thanks for the reminder. Later, Melissa. And thanks again for the talk, Rosemary. What a wonderful lady she is. Oh, thank goodness our internet succeeded twice. Not that it helped us much the next day. Leveling everything to the 25-centimeter mark is tedious. I was surrounded by 4 buckets, each dedicated to a different layer. When I reached the bottom, I learned that my square sloped like a steep slide. It had to be perfectly vertical. There were a few inches. Metric, think metric. Centimeters I had to scrape off. But there was still the possibility I would find more bone or flint while smoothing it over. KYLER was absent doing laboratory work, leaving me in a solitary hole. But I thought, am I not checking enough? I don't know. Through my low music, I heard footsteps coming down the ladder. I paused my tongue. Yes, that's what I did. My song as I turned around to greet the person. Ah, Augustin! Looking angry as usual. Augustin clutched a document that looked vaguely familiar, and I realized it had my writing on it. My stomach plunged, but I forced a hopeful grin as I removed my earbuds and stood up. Hello, Augustin.
Melissa.
He handed me the fiche, and I nervously glanced over it, wondering what was wrong. Oh, this is that day. Oh, so we get it from Augustin today. Oh, lovely, lovely, lovely. Alright.
I noticed that in your most recent reports, you do not sketch the findings in the grid provided at the bottom.
I flipped it over and he tapped the last page, which were devoid of any pencil marks. Oh. I scrambled to formulate a reason for neglecting that last part. I originally didn't bother sketching the smaller objects, and I guess it became a habit. Well, everything already gets recorded in the nature list, so I didn't draw its position, too. He shook his head, severely disappointed by my logic. I sidestepped to allow him to approach my square, and he picked up the bigger trowel from my usual tool set.
Again and again, I have stressed that context is important in microstratigraphy. Not just the x and y coordinates, and not just the delta, but also how it was positioned when you found it. The provenience is essential to understanding how this find got to where it is now. Do you know what period you're working on?
Roughly 120,000 years ago, give or take a few thousand.
And is this during a warm or cool period?
I don't know. I've also never seen this look on Augustin's face.
It's the end of a warm period, thus its climate is changing. It is extremely important to record context in these layers due to the climate change. Moreover, it has been proven Neanderthals have occupied this cave, and their remains have been found in these sediments. Most of these findings have been recovered in a secondary context. That is, they were removed from their original position due to external elements such as fluvial processes, rockfalls, animals, or ice. We need to know what position the finding was in to determine how it was brought here, or if it is in situ. If a bone is vertical, it is possible it was moved by cryoturbulation, with ice wedging underneath it little by little every year, until it has moved to its new context. Or maybe it was deliberately buried by a Neanderthal. But how will we know if you do not record this?
His tone was level, but very strict, and with every sentence I felt more and more careless about my excavation. I could only nod as he continued. Oh gosh, how long will this go on? Shoji was right, this goes on for a long time.
Here, we believe the cave was opened up during the warm period, possibly due to collapse, but we don't know. Caves usually have a stabilized environment until something happens, such as rock falls or a river cutting through the limestone. It is now subject to more drastic turmoil, and we need to know what those changes were, and how they impacted this cave.
Augustin continued, using his trowel to pretend to find various bones or flint. I did my best to follow along, but my mind was a whirlwind of disappointment. I had thought I carried out the procedures to a T. Why didn't KYLER point it out? No, it wasn't his fault. If anything, I should have been more aware. Maybe Sherry would know.
Archaeology destroys. You have one chance to accurately record the position. Then it is gone forever, and you are no better than a collector who does not respect the significance of context. Therefore, please outline how they were found. Its provenience is extremely vital.
Right, you got it, Augustin. I'm really sorry.
I will return these
Do that again.
I will return these documents to the lab, but I want all future reports to be filled in completely.
Once he was gone, I tossed my trowel into one of the buckets and grabbed my journal. Good talk, Augustin. I really miss Hendrik's kiss method. It's a lot easier. I had a feeling I needed to write down everything I was lectured on before I forgot. Augustin does love his lectures. It's because I keep feeling that studying that I don't know to draw in the context of stuff. Oh, this evening is more festive than usual. There was a party here every night, but this was one of the liveliest I've seen yet.
This is the last week for most of the students here. That's why they're all celebrating.
What's let's party in French?
Faire la fête, or you could simply say célébrons.
Isn't faire a verb for make?
Make, do, act.
Basically, you're saying make the party? That sounds more engaging than let's party. In English, we should say let's make party from now on. You dig?
It's interesting. I don't think it's going to catch on, though.
Watch me. It'll spread like a catchphrase in markets. My eyes wandered over to the dance scene, which was pitiful in my eyes. There were a few casual participants, some with a beer in hand. I had a feeling if no one else joined, it would dissolve like sugar in tea. A shame. I hated seeing an empty dance floor. I spotted Chantel and Joan chatting away and decided to join them. Later, DeAndre.
Cheers.
Something up? Here to say hi? Hi. Hey, Joan. And Chantel, you could say that. I was waiting for the right time to dance. You should grab a partner and encourage more people to join in. True. Even if club music was not my thing, at least I get my feet moving. Oh, who should I ask? It's a very, very, very slim shot, but maybe KYLER. Well, let's see what happens. Time to see if KYLER is a square mate or simply a square. Hiding in here, eh? Having a general idea of where he'd be, I entered the museum right as he descended the stairs near the front entrance. I bounded to the first step, giving him a cheerful wave, causing him to pause. He seemed confused by my approach and regarded me dubiously.
Do you need something?
There's music playing outside, and I was wondering if you'd like to rip it up.
Rip it up.
Dance. Would you like to dance with me?
I don't engage in trifling activities.
Ouch, cold. Ooh, getting burned by Mr. Darcy over here. Yay. After the rebuff, he proceeded toward the door and I watched him go. KYLER. Should I persist, or... I don't know. It's gonna be all Mr. Darcy on me, you know? Like, Lizzie wouldn't have gone after Mr. Darcy, so I don't think Melissa should go after KYLER either. I think we should just let it go, and we'll get him to dance with us later. Or something. Hopefully. Right. Later, KYLER. As soon as he disappeared through the door, I sighed and ruffled my hair. I expected to be rejected, but not that harshly. After the brush-off, I returned to Chantal and Joan. These girls will dance with me.
Weren't able to find anyone?
I did ask KYLER, but he didn't seem interested. Whether it was my words or my expression, Joan must have understood, since she grabbed my hand earnestly and pointed to the empty dance area. Oh, Joan. Let's go.
I'm not much of a dancer, but it'll be fun. Why not?
Aw, thank you. I appreciate it. Once the three of us migrated to an open spot, the song was replaced by a more upbeat one that encouraged jumping and pumping your fists. The energy was great, even if the dance style wasn't my forte, and more people joined in. I didn't know the lyrics. Any talking over the loud music was easily lost, but I followed the rhythm, taking cues from the others. I even mimicked some of the dance moves I saw, while Joan and Chantal tried some of the advanced sequences that I had picked up from my own clubbing experience. Once the party reached its conclusion, the music stopped and people trickled back to the tent area, me included. I really had a good time. Felt like forever since I've last danced with friends. Oh, no, so disappointed. Why you gotta be such a Mr. Darcy, KYLER? Come on now. KYLER's already halfway done with his square? I discreetly glanced at his knelt frame. He held an updated photograph to compare the new positions of the sediments. A sentimental swing song started and I quickly hit next on my phone. I thought I deleted it from my list. While skipping through my collection, I heard voices above me and looked up, wondering what the hullabaloo was about. Ah, yes. Ah, that sweater's so cute. Chantal, I love it. On the narrow industrial catwalk, DeAndre and Chantal were engaged in a lively conversation. Judging from her laughter, he was telling a humorous story, animated with exaggerated motions. Shoji waited anxiously a few paces behind them, his hands occupied with two buckets. He looked uncertain on whether to ask them to move or to retreat instead. Finally, Shoji uttered something low and apologetic, catching their attention, and the pair separated. DeAndre shuffled backward to the edge of the catwalk, and I gasped in horror. Look out! His foot stumbled over a cement block, which contained a wooden beam with a heat lamp clamped to it. Shoji dropped the buckets and lunged forward with Chantal to grab DeAndre. However, they couldn't stop the items he collided into, and they tipped over the catwalk. I instinctively dove for KYLER, who was unaware of the offense. Save you, boo, even though you didn't dance with me. There was a loud crash behind us as I tackled him out of harm's way, and I cradled his head protectively when we hit the hard ground. Dirt from the bucket spilled through the catwalk and rained down on us harmlessly. I glanced back to view the damage.
Are you all okay?
Or no, it was Sherry. I thought it was Sherry at first, and then I couldn't remember. Are you all okay? Sherry briskly walked along the lower catwalk toward our pit and fearfully peered over. I scooted back when I realized I still had KYLER pinned to the floor. It appeared safe enough, and KYLER sat up immediately examining the mess. I heard perturbed voices from above, including DeAndre's. I turned to Sherry first, doing my best to ignore my visible shaking. My earbuds had come loose, and I stuffed them into my pocket to mask my trembling. Yeah, we're fine.
Careful, the heat lamp shattered. Don't cut yourself.
I set up cautiously, taking note of the disturbed dirt and the wooden beam that leaned right against my square. It would have hit me if I hadn't moved, along with the heat lamp and cement block that were right by my feet. Oh man, that was close. For safety reasons, I approached the ladder, but paused when KYLER unleashed an enraged rant at DeAndre. Whenever DeAndre desperately tried to counter, KYLER would cut him off and gesture wildly to the mess. Well, I'll let KYLER get it out. At least I could remove this heat lamp. I knelt down, but when my fingers grazed the edge, I let out a pained gasp and reflexively removed my hand. I stuck the burned fingertip into my mouth. Oh yeah, that'd be very hot. Aw, my reaction caused KYLER to turn around, dropping his tirade to tend to me. Thank you, boo.
What are you doing? You shouldn't touch any of this wreck. Come on, let's get out of here.
Right.
Are either of you injured?
KYLER rubbed the back of his neck while I wriggled my injured finger. Small burn. I think I'll live.
I'm fine. Was dazed briefly when Melissa saved me, but I didn't hit my head or anything.
I put a hand on my chest and exhaled loudly in relief. Oh good. I didn't mean to tackle you like that. It all happened so fast. From the corner of my eye, I saw a curious student staring down at us. Forcing a grin, I gave an awkward wave.
We're A-okay. No harm done.
Hopefully my cheerful tone pacified their anxiety. DeAndre looked as if he was about to throw up from sheer guilt. He was that pale. He shuffled a few paces down and grabbed the railing as he leaned over to get a better view.
You sure? I'm very sorry about that. I'll clean up the mess and everything. I wasn't thinking and...
What on earth?
Oh, I forgot about Joan's adorable hoodie oh my goodness, so many adorable hoodies. Hendrik approached DeAndre, who began pointing and explaining in fretful French. Joan was a few steps behind Hendrik, and I assumed she was the one who alerted Hendrik to the incident. Shoji and Chantel joined in, with Shoji stammering profusely, while DeAndre watched him in surprise. I guess Shoji felt partially responsible for the whole thing, too. Now what? KYLER and I can't exactly continue our excavation. I don't mind cleaning up.
Goodness, no! You two experienced a close call just moments ago. If anything, it's the main team's fault for overlooking such a precarious setup. Take a break, or you can switch to the lab. We'll take care of this straight away. I know Augustin isn't going to be thrilled about this. I'll try to clean up as much as I can before he sees the full mess.
Before I could protest, she shooed the both of us away, encouraging us to get some fresh air. Once we were outside, it wasn't until I gazed at the forest that I noticed my heart beat rapidly. Guess that scared me more than I thought. I leaned against the wall heavily to support myself. It terrified me to know that if I was a moment slower, KYLER, or most likely myself, judging from where the equipment smashed, could have been seriously hurt or worse.
Are you truly all right?
The words were hesitant but sympathetic, and I tilted my head in his direction. Yeah, obviously a little shaken, but I'll be fine.
I'm glad you're physically unharmed at any rate. I thank you for shielding me. How were you able to react that fast?
I was fortunate enough to hear the chatter, and then I saw it happen. It was like in slow motion. I could see it coming, and yet I wasn't able to prevent it. I knew you wouldn't be able to hear what went on, and I couldn't exactly warn you. Must have been confusing, me tackling you to the ground for supposedly no reason. Blame it on my dancing reflexes. You should try it sometime.
I had no clue what was happening until I looked past you. Again, thank you. If you hadn't...
He trailed off, unable to finish, and I nodded understandingly. It's nothing. The less it's brought up, the better. I don't want to dwell on it, or I'll make myself sick with worry over the could-have-beens. I'll do lab work in the meantime. You?
I'm going to remain here.
Right. Later, then. I departed, grateful for the fresh air. Halfway down the path to the museum, DeAndre called for me. He skidded, then stopped a few paces before me, leaning over with his hands on his knees to catch his breath. He must have been sprinting like mad to catch up.
There. Oh, you are. I really wanted to apologize about the whole thing. You're not hurt?
I'm fine. KYLER and I made it through unharmed. Did you talk to him? He kicked at a pebble embedded in the dirt.
I tried, but he didn't want to hear it. Then I got worried you felt the same way.
I don't want to berate him for his carelessness at the same time. No, I can't. I can't do it to my old boo. I just can't. Don't worry about it. No one was hurt in the end. He bashfully scratched the back of his head, as if unable to tell whether I said that to be nice or from genuine relief.
You... sure? I mean, if that cement block hit you...
Do I look dead to you?
No.
Then it's okay. No one got injured, and that's what matters. You don't need to beat yourself up over it. I'm sure you feel bad enough as it is. I'm not angry at you either. It was an accident. The heat lamp shouldn't have been positioned there anyway. It was already a danger. I'm glad you weren't hurt. You nearly toppled off there.
I was lucky. I had no idea Shoji could react that fast. Chantel, too. I highly doubt they could have stopped my fall alone. You were impressive yourself, shielding KYLER from the equipment.
Only because yeah, people have always told me I have fast reflexes. I avoided mentioning that I was able to take action because I'd glanced up by chance. There was enough guilt on his shoulders, and he didn't need to know that if I was tuned out, it might have ended differently.
I'm glad you're okay. Now I need to return and help with the cleanup before Professor Dupont gets here.
We exchanged cringed expressions, but DeAndre gave me a clap to the shoulder to show he was going to face it head on. Right. I'll see you later, DeAndre. Be brave. Woo! And I'm in the lab today. All right.